Hello, hello. This is MUSAU MattmeachamJR broadcasting, broadcasting from Kigali, Rwanda, East Central Africa. Well, as usual, the only time that I can actually give a good broadcast is when I'm motivated, and I have just been motivated. What motive? It's always when I'm in bed. I'm sleeping. I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I'm getting ready to just take a nap or something, and then all of a sudden I'm hit with some type of motivation stimulus, a motivation stimulus. So I was just motivated, and I decided to get up and do a broadcast. Basically, what was happening during my stay in bed just a few moments ago, I was dealing with the concept of infinitive, infinitive, infinitive. Remember, I had indicated to my viewing audience that my concern was basically with the formula E equal MC squared. And what I plan to do, I plan to take Einstein's theory of relativity and to make it a to make his theory. I'm going to reverse his theory, and my theory is dealing with the preservation of humanity. But there was one concept that came to me when I began to think, and that concept was infinitive, or infinite, or infinitive, or everlasting, or never ending. Well, in mathematics we say infinitive. In religion we say everlasting. But it's basically the concept is the same. Basically, not ending. But what I was concerned about was the space between one and two. It's quite interesting. The space between one and two is infinite. The space between one and two is infinite. The space between 1 and 2 million is infinite. Isn't that interesting? Let's take a ruler. Let's say we had a stick, a ruler, a ruling stick, and we okay. You know how you rule is how you have the different spaces. You know, one, then it moves to two. Okay, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, all the way over to 12 inch. Or if it's a yard ruler, then it's 36 inches. Let's look at the space between one and two on a ruler. When you look at the space between one and two on a ruler, it's finite. When we perceive it, when we perceive the space between one and two on a ruler, take a ruler stick and we perceive it with our eyes, and we look at the space between one and two, the space between one and two is finite. I mean, it stops. In other words, when we look at it, when we perceive it with our eyes, we see, let's say, the beginning one and the end two. It is finite as we perceive it. But in reality, it is infinite. Isn't that something? For you guys who are not really understanding me, this is okay. This is okay. You shake. the space between 1 and 2, or okay, 1 inch. Okay, and then you have those other small lines, boom, boom, boom. But look, if you continue to cut, you can continue to cut forever. You can continue to cut forever. I mean, if you had the tools to cut, you could cut forever between 1 and 2. Now, what is what is infinity? What is the infinite? I think that when the human being or the man begins to understand these concepts, that's when he begins to make these fantastic things like the atomic bomb. When man get in so much contemplation, and it's the mind that God gives the man, he can come up with so many things. So, as I indicated on opening this discussion, it came, I guess, my motivations. I know when I would do my broadcast in U.S., I would have to go to the South Station in Boston, and then I would have to catch the train to Providence, Rhode Island. And then by my going through these particular steps, then I'm motivated to make a speech on my YouTube station. But this is quite interesting. I'm motivated. I'm motivated to give a speech on my YouTube station after I'm having a nap in bed, after I'm relaxing, I'm sleeping, and then all of a sudden, boom, the motivation comes. And the motivation this time came. It came about what I began to contemplate on the concept of infinitive. In infinitive, I can say this, and I think if I say this, I'm accurate. Infinitive equals everlasting. Everlasting equals never ending. Never ending equals forever. We get into linguistics. We get into philosophy, and we get into science and mathematics. They're related, yet they're not related. Now, in order for me to come up with a formula which could be designed to save humanity, I have to deal with concepts like that. See what happens with each of us. Okay, we're born in a certain culture. We're born in a certain country. We're born in a certain climate. And so all these things that we are born into, these things that we are born into, those things are the things which make us what we are. Basically, we're all human beings, but we're different by determination. By determination, I mean what? It all determines on when and where you exist, when and where you become. You become. Think about it. Just think about it. Each of us, mammals, look how we all are conceived. What conceived? Look at how we all become. A sperm and an egg. a sperm and an egg. Each of us, we come that way. But what has happened, I think, that has brought us to where we are today, science. Science. The test tube baby, science. So if I am going to come up with a formula, it requires that I must go into deep thought and deep contemplation. And I'm in the place where I can do deep thought and contemplation. I remember in my youth, when I was very young, my first trip to Africa, I was in Nigeria, and I was a very young man. I think I was 20 years old. Oh, those are some golden years. But what would happen? I don't know. Maybe it was a cultural thing, a cultural, some people call it maybe a cultural shock coming from a well technologically developed society, then going into a society that is not as technologically developed as the other. Thrust into that. And I know as a young man, I had a friend, and he and I would get into deep, deep philosophical discussions. I think it has a lot to do with where we at, where we are, that determines what the mind does. So I'm positive that I will come up with that formula. That formula derives from the formula categorized and stipulated by Dr. Albert Einstein. And that is my concern. My concern is how, knowing what man is and knowing what man will do, my concern is how can we come up with a formula that would move toward the preservation of humanity. Now, let's look at the three variables that we're talking about. We're talking about E. Now, okay. Now, Albert Einstein, I think he came from Germany, and I think the Germanic language and the English language are closely related. I think if you go far, far, far back into history, that you find that German and English are really they basically come from the same language. Let's look at his formula: E equal MC squared. English, each. English, evil. E, eternal. E, everlasting. Okay, that the alphabet E. Why did he choose E? E is how you spell energy in English with an E. Energy begins with an E. Okay, all right. Okay, it may not have had anything to do with the alphabet, but it was a concept. Once we understand the concept of energy, what is energy? This thing that he called energy, it may be called something else in other languages, but it's something specific, energy. So I think that in order to come up with a theory or a formula that counteracts Einstein's theory, it's necessary to first understand Einstein's theories. First, you must understand Einstein's theory. What does it really mean? Okay, energy. E, energy. Energy equal mass, mass. E equal energy, mass times the speed of light. Why the speed of light? What is 186,000 miles per second? Light. Okay. Energy. Okay, we've got energy on one side of that equation. Then we have the equal sign. It goes energy equal mc squared. Mass times the speed of light squared. Wow. 108, what is it? 185,000 miles per second? How? So what are we talking about here? I mean, what are we talking about? We know we're talking about energy. We're talking about energy. Let's understand energy first. Energy. Mass. What is mass? The speed of light squared? What does that mean? The speed of light squared? What does that mean? So basically, in order to come up with a formula that will counteract the formula that was established by Dr. Albert Einstein, to counteract the results of his formula, to counteract the consequence of his formula. First, we must understand the formula. There is one. And we are going to find that formula. We're going to come up with a formula, and this formula is going to counteract. This formula is going to confront E equal mc squared. So, wow. So these are the things that I'll be talking about in Africa. These are the things that I will be talking about. These are the things that I will be thinking about in Africa. The cradle of civilization. The place where all mankind began. The dark continent. The continent of the black people. The wealthiest continent on earth. I am in a very critical place on earth. But I guarantee that before this is all over, I will come up with a theory to save humanity. Well, okay, his concept, E equal mc squared, existed before Einstein even came around. E equal mc squared, whatever the reality is, whatever E equal mc squared is, that reality existed whether Einstein existed or not. It's just that Einstein reflected on it. Einstein was able to notice it. Einstein was able to bring it out, to look at this reality. The reality existed. The reality existed before he wrote E equal mc squared. So there is a reality that exists that says this is the reality to save mankind. That's the reality that I'm searching for. An artist. Yes, I'm looking for the sign that exists. It already, the formula already exists. The formula to save mankind, it exists at this very moment. But my duty as a scientist, a scientist artist, my job is to pull that reality out so the world can see it. The formula already exists. It's not a formula that comes out of my mind, or the formula E equal MC squared, it existed before Einstein ever, even before he was in the womb. He discovered he discovered that reality. It is up to me to discover the reality, the formula that will save mankind. I'm going to go to the scripture. I'm going to go to the Bible. I'm going to go to the Quran. I know those religions. The others I don't know, but I know Islam. I know Christianity. There is a theological variable. There's a theological variable that exists. But watch this. Who was the greatest of the theologians? Think about it. Of all, some men call them prophets, but of all the theologians that we know of in this lifetime, who was the most prophetic? Watch this. I think that I have one of the variables already. I think that I have one of the variables already. And what I'm relying on, I am relying on the teachings of this theologian. Now watch this. Some of you, if you've been following me, you know who this theologian is. And I bet some of you already know the variable. If you're thinking, watch this. The most prophetic theologian was Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. He was the most powerful theologian that we know of. Perhaps there were many, many before in other periods of time. But as far as what we know, he was the greatest of all the theologians. Now watch this, ladies and gentlemen. My viewing audience, watch this. I have one of the variables. I have one of the variables. Now the issue is, where do I put it? Where do I put this variable in the equation? Remember, Einstein's theory, E equal mc squared. Okay, in other words, you got something equal to something else, or something equal to itself. Everything is equal to itself. So A equal A, B equal B. You got an artist here. I am not a what you call a scientist. You have an artist dealing with the issue. So you got A equals A, B equals B, C equals C. The theory that Einstein gave us, E equal mc squared. We got something on one side of the equation, and we got something. Now here, I'm going to hit you with it. I'm getting ready to hit you with it, and then I will be checking out for tonight. Watch this. I don't think that this variable exists independently like E does. I think what happens is the variable that I've just pulled up, the variable that I've just realized, it exists with something else. You know, like you get Einstein's theory, you got E equal mc squared. So this other variable is not on the side that says like E. It's not existing alone. This variable exists with something else. The variable, I'll tell you right now, is L, love. LOVE. That variable, what would stand for that variable is L. So we got L on one side of that equation, love, because the theologian Jesus Christ, that's what he taught. His basic sermons, his basic discussions His basic arguments all centered around one concept. That concept was love, Love. I got one of the variables. I got one of the variables. Now, this variable okay, now, we got Einstein's theory, E equal mc squared. Now, we're dealing, we're dealing with MUSAU MattmeachamJR's theory of cultural preservation. Cultural preservation? Or should it be preservation of civilization? We'll think about the name of the forum. But right now, we have a variable, one variable, love. Love. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But I'm getting ready to sign out in Kigali, Rwanda. This is MUSAU MattmeachamJR signing out.